The South Dakota Stories, Volume 5. South Dakota seemed like the perfect place to unplug. But I ended up connecting to the world around me. A world where each sunset was painted, where I felt adventure's pulse with every step, and where cold water trickling, pine swaying, and grunting bison became my favorite soundtracks. I just wish I didn't have to leave. There's so much South Dakota, so little time.
Meet the next generation of podcast stars with SiriusXM's Listen Next program, presented by State Farm. As part of their mission to help voices be heard, State Farm teamed up with SiriusXM to uplift diverse and emerging creators. Tune in to Stars and Stars with Issa, as host Issa Nakazawa dives into birth charts of her celeb guests. This is just the start of a new wave of podcasting. Visit statefarm.com to find out how we can help prepare for your future. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
What's up, y'all? This is Brother Ali in the mix with Tim Einenkel on The Library, rapstation.com. Keep it right here.
Been a minute, the city back on it again. Let me find if they checking for who can spit again. While y'all's out there leaning again, crunk being bout it and turning up. I ain't never stopped with the pen and dead. Homonyms, haiku stanzas and synonyms. Simile showcase, we're getting busy. Years bar for bar, rappers was awesome palm. I wish I was awesome palm, bodies with no regard. They ain't care about spitters when I was starting to pop. I was clicking with Preem, Mills was making it hot. Party like a rock star, shop boys had it on lock. I was just another star in the block.
He's the director of A&R at Soul Spasm Records and host of The Tour Guide on SiriusXM Hip Hop Nation. His second solo studio album, entitled, drops January 15th, 2016, and will feature guest vocals from the likes of Saul Williams, Fonte, Pharoah Monch, just to name a few, and will have production from Pete Rock, Jahil Beats, Mr. Porter, Apollo Brown, DJ Premier, and much more. He's Torae, and I want to welcome him to the library with Tim Einenkel on rapstation.com.
What's going on, Tim? Thank you for having me. It's a great introduction there.
So on August 31st of 2015, you set up a Kickstarter funding campaign pledging for $10,000 for the album. The pledge was successful, and you met at the goal was actually went above the goal with $10,295. Admittedly, I don't know how much it costs to create an album. So, is this a low figure for an album production? And then, how did you come up with the number 10,000?
Yeah, I mean, I had already put like 20,000 into the album before. 10,000 to cover like maybe 2 beats on that album. So, but for me, it was less about the money. It was more so about engaging the fan base, kind of seeing who was willing to put their money where their mouth is, because there's so many different ways to get music now. People don't necessarily have to go out and buy it. And so for me, when I'm creating a project, I really want to see who's really there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got 20,000 followers on this and 50,000 followers on that. Of that number, I really wanted to gauge who was really there, who was really a fan, who was really gonna, like I said, put their money where their mouth is and support it, with a pledge. And so that's what it was for me. It was like seeing who was really involved, and then how engaged were they? Were they a casual $10? Yeah, I want to get this. Were they a $100? Were they a $500? I had shout out to my man Hank Homage, who paid $500 plus to have me come out to his house and play the album early. And like for me, that's where the reward live for me was really kind of seeing where the people were and how much of a Torae supporter they were. So yeah, that to 10,000 for the album is super duper low. I mean, the stuff that I've done since then, I've way far exceeded that number as far as what I'm spending. But for me, again, like, I have various streams of income, so it wasn't like, I need $10,000 to make this out. Like, I could have went to any independent record company and got $10,000 to do the album. I just wanted to rock with the people. I wanted to do cool stuff like show up at your crib, and I wanted to do cool stuff like, have exclusive merch for you, or, have you come to the gym and work out with me. These are some of the rewards that we had on the Kickstarter. And so that was what it was about for me, just really getting involved with the people, because nobody has to buy the music. So, you gotta sell them more. You gotta sell them the experience, and for me, it was dope because I got a chance to make some new friends, like people who care that much about what I'm doing and putting out musically. I consider them to be, fam, so that's what it was for me. But because the Kickstarter was very successful, and I was apprehensive about doing it. So I'm glad that we met the goal and, we was able to make it happen.
For you, I mean, is this something that you think would be a business plan from here on out for you for the album, for new albums, or is it kind of like a one-time thing, or not even just a one-time thing, but it doesn't have to be like, all right, Torae's gonna make another album, all right, here's my Kickstarter campaign and blah blah blah. I mean, or are you leaning towards doing this type of business plan, or do you think you might go back to independent labels or any label?
I would never say never, but I doubt very highly if I would ever do it again. It was a cool thing to do. It was a cool experience, but the process and, it was a bit much, at times. And, again, you're just at the mercy of the people. So you always feel so vulnerable. You got everybody looking and people waiting to see what this one pledge and, waiting to the bitter end. And I was just like, this is not, I'm good on it. Internal Affairs Entertainment is my company. Every record that I put out has been through Internal Affairs in some capacity. And so, for the next album, there was no Kickstarter 8 years ago when I put out Daily Conversations. So we'll see, when it's time to do the next solo album, if there's something comparable to that and if it makes sense for me to do it. Or I might just, have to dig in the bank and do it myself. I mean, which I did anyway on this one, but, I kind of got an idea of where the fans are. So I'm gonna try to use that, use that information and pull from there.
I was speaking to Torae. His new album is entitled, drops January 15th, 2016. Torae, I want to get into a few tracks of the album. On the track Get Down, which is produced by the legendary Pete Rock, OKPlayer.com says, quote, Torae gets as grisly as he's ever been on the mic, throwing lyrical daggers like darts against the board. You have a line in the track where you say, I had it with below average stats. How's that the status quo? What was the tipping point for you to say this? Like, when did you know that you had to write down and make music out of this? What are you seeing that needs to be changed in rap or hip-hop culture?
That line, I guess, is more, directed towards what's happening in mainstream music and kind of what people are flocking to, or what people being force-fed and thus flocking to. It's just, below average stats, how that's the status quo, and if you just break that line down, it's like people who aren't as lyrically talented or people who may not be as skilled in the profession are now becoming, the benchmark for what people are aspiring to or what success is. And I'm just like, how that's the status quo. How's that? How's that what it is? And me is like, in my music, I always try to give you the truth, for lack of a better term. And that's just the truth. That's where we are in mainstream music. So my job as an artist and as an MC is to talk about all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And, that was just a line in the joint. I didn't really give it too much thought or overanalyze it. It's just like, it rolled off the tongue because that's part of the conversation.
I saw a video on, Genius.com for What's Love featuring Faramonch, but didn't have the Faramonch verse to it. But one thing I thought was interesting that it was, the video was you spitting lyrics over live instrumentals. One, why live instrumentals for this track? But two, how, if at all, do your lyrics change or your writing process change is when you're doing live instrumentals versus an already produced beat?
It's not really a change from live to like in studio production. I think that whatever the beat is, I let the beat help dictate what the song is going to be and how the writing process is going to go. So if it's one of those beats where I feel like it needs a space to breathe, then I'm gonna put a space in there to breathe. If it's something where I feel like I gotta keep the energy going, and keep it ferocious, then I'm gonna do it that way. If it's something where I need to, make it maybe a little more melodic, I'm gonna do it that way. But it definitely just depends on what the beat brings out of me. The beat is like, my voice is the final instrument. So like whatever those instruments prior to me getting there tell me to do, that's what I'm gonna add onto the track. That's kind of how I go about the writing process.
A few of the tracks that were released for the new album entitled, obviously, and even in some of your music, you kind of, you express your frustration as, talked about with what people are getting forced fed. So how For you, how far were you in your music career when you realized that, well, one, you knew you went into this doing it for the love of the culture and for the music, but you realized there were people out there that were just doing it for the check. If musical genre called shakalaka was popular, they would be doing that too. And then how do you stay, when this is all around you, how do you stay focused and passionate about what you do?
There's probably was always people who did it for, like, at the end of the day, it's a business. So you got to treat it like any other business, whether you're selling cars, you selling homes, or you selling, music. One is definitely passion driven, but at the end of the day, it's the music business. So if you just want to make music and not be a part of the business, then you have to make that decision. I chose to be in the music business. So I understand the business aspect of it. And I feel like even as I was coming up as a fan, there might have been people who weren't maybe so deserving, or people who I didn't feel as talented as some of my favorite artists who probably got a bum deal. With that being said, once I really got into it, 2007-ish, 2008-ish, when I really got involved and fully engulfed, I call it the peek behind the curtain effect. When I got a little look behind the curtain and I saw that the Wizard of Oz wasn't the great and powerful, it was just a little guy, I was like, oh, this is a lot different than what I thought it was. But I had already invested so much, I loved it so much, I cared so much, I had already sacrificed so much. It wasn't a point of, well, it's time to turn back and start from scratch. It was like, make the most of it, make it work, understand what your parameters and your boundaries are as far as what you're willing to do for quote unquote success or notoriety. And my thing was always just stay true to the music, stay true to the music, stay true to the sound and the feel that you were inspired by, that made you want to create music. And from there, figure out how to max that out, so for me, it's never about, reaching to try to make a hit record or trying to work with a certain person because they have a certain following, a fan base, or buzz. For me, it's always like, make it organic, make it make sense, and do what's real to you, and then figure out how to just get it to as many people as possible. I feel like I haven't hit the limit or reached the ceiling as far as what my fan base could be. So it's just trying to figure out with each project how to reach more and more people who like the type of music that I make.
On the album, you released Saturday Night, which is produced by Premier. One, for this track, why release this as part of the singles? But two, when you've collaborated with Premier a few times, is Premier the type of producer, when you do collaborate with him, that you're kind of forced to step up your lyrical game? Do you ever write something and you spit over it, and then he kind of comes back and like, all right, I want you to come harder with this or whatnot? Shout
out to Preem, man. I love DJ Premier. He's for as great as a producer and DJ as he is, he's just even more of an amazing person. So, shout out to Preem. Definitely got a lot of love for Preem. Preem is a producer, and producers produce. That's the difference between being a beat maker and being a producer. Anybody can, well, not anybody, but a lot of people can make beats, but to really produce the vocals and produce the song, Preem would be like, yo, I love the whole verse, I just don't like how you said this one line. And I was always an advocate of, if I messed up a line and didn't say it right, maybe I shouldn't give out too many secrets, but I would just do the whole thing over, re-record it. But Preem definitely believes in the punching. He's like, yo, nah, just punch this one line. And on the first few records, I was like, yo, I don't like the punch. Like, I don't. And he was like, oh, listen. And then he was like, such and such and such, such and such punch. And I was like, okay, well, this guy's DJ Premier for a reason. And so we would punch in, and it would literally be like one line. Like, I could spit the whole for the record, all 16 bars, and be like, yo, I just don't like how you ended record. Just punch that, and then just be like, record, and that's it. And but that's what makes DJ Premier one of the greats, because he knows what he's doing. He knows what the record should sound like. He hears it in his mind. And as an artist, I think it's our responsibility to never just do whatever somebody says, but always listen, always be open-minded, always be willing to learn. They say if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And, a guy like DJ Premier teaching me and coaching me on vocals and how to, just attack the mic and pause and do songs, that makes all the difference in the song. So for me, it's never about like, yo, I got to go super hard because it's Premier, because I'm going to try to go, and write the best rhyme ever on every joint. But, there's a difference to being in the studio and working with a legend like Preem, cutting vocals, or somebody emailing you a beat and you just doing it at, whatever studio in your own time. I think that's why our records have the feeling that they do have is because we are right there. You know, he's making the beat right there. I'm writing the rhymes and recording right there. We in the same room, and that's that energy. You know, that's the energy of a For the Record or a Click or a Get It Done or, you know, a Saturday Night. When it was time to do Saturday Night, I was like, yo, we've already given them just so much New York gritty bars and beats and cuts, and I was like, I want to do something different. We never did a story record, you know. And he was like, word. So he came back, and the beat for Saturday Night, it was so like kind of out there, you know. It was still very dope and Premiere-esque in its feel, but it also had a different type of vibe to it. And I was like, you know, I want to write a story joint, and it just had that feel. I was like, I'm gonna write about the Chinese store, you know what I'm saying? And it was just something dope and new for Premier and I to do together. And you know, I love it, man, because it shows just the different levels of where our relationship and our friendship and our working relationship is gone. You know, from me making like a classic DJ Premier feeling type of joint to a whole different, you know, people like, yo, the storytelling on that is Slick Rick-esque, and you know what I'm saying? Like, Slick Rick, one of my favorites ever, so just to hear that, you know, definitely means a lot to me. But I love the fact that we have variety in the stuff that we've done, and you know, moving forward, I want to even push it even further and do, you know, things that have a whole different feel from, you know, what you would assume you would get from Torae and Premier.
Another producer you worked with in the past, Marco Polo, on Double Barreled, which I really like because it's one of those albums. I mean, the production is great, but also it's one of those albums where you stand out as someone who's like, you have something to say, and it doesn't matter if it rhymes. You're just going to say it, and it works. Like, I mean, that's the thing, it works. But what I noticed is Marco Polo's not on this album. Was there a scheduling conflict, or I mean, is there a reason behind it?
No. Marco's my brother. I just spoke to Marco. Marco's birthday was just yesterday, so you know that's my guy. Marco and I, it just didn't happen on the album. Like, again, our relationship and friendship is so organic. It's not like force feeded. You know, Marco and I planned on doing another collaborative album, and so it wasn't, you know, like, yo, we got to get one in. And I know when people see the track listing that, you know, the first thing they always say, no Skyzoo, no Marco Polo, no. And I'm like, yo, you've seen me work with these people. So, like, you want me to just keep continuing to do the same thing over and over again? That's not me. You know, I think that over the course of coming into my 8th year of releasing music, I pride myself on the fact that, you know, even though you're always going to get Torae, you're going to get the same general aesthetic as far as what I'm bringing to the table, I always try to do it in a different way. You know, I always try to give you a different angle to look at it. You know, even if we're telling the same story, I'm giving it to you from different points of view, so you get a different perspective on it. So Marco and I, we just didn't connect on this one. You know, Marco just did PA2. I wasn't on PA2. So people were like, yo, you're not on. And I was like, yo, it's not a big deal. For us, the relationship and the friendship is so real that it's not about going to the studio to do a record. You know what I'm saying? Like, but now that Entitled is done, I will say this live right here first. Top of the year, me and Marco going back in. We're going to cook up and we're going to do it again, you know, because that's what we are. It's been, when we dropped June 2009. So it's time. Now it's time. And you guys will get, you know, 12 or 13 joints from Torae and Marco. Not 13. I don't like 13 as an album number. But, you know, 12 or 14 joints or 10. You know what I'm saying? Marco Polo, Torae joints. We have that chemistry. And when we did that album, you know, we both felt like it was needed. You know, our thing was like, yo, there's a void in this feel, in this sound for a whole album. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? For a whole album, let's give them the hardest rhymes and the hardest beats and the coldest, you know what I mean, New York City night, you know, the grittiest Tims and the thickest hoodie and thermal. Like, that was just the whole feel behind making that record. So now we're gonna, you know, we're gonna swim back around and give it to you one more again. You know,
we talk about the album making process in general, and in the video and the song, I'm gonna go back a little bit off your EP. For the record, what it sounds like, you has you traveling from Brooklyn to Bangkok to chase down this bootlegger, and then you beat anyway. So that said, is when downloading albums seems to be the norm, right? Like illegally downloading albums. I mean, I remember talking to a producer, and he said, like, someone tweeted him, hey, look, I streamed I put up your entire album on YouTube, but didn't see anything wrong with that. Like, hey, matter of fact, do you have to approach the purpose of the album? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you approach it as like, all right, I'm making kind of like a mixtape to get myself out there, or do you still approach it as you're creating a work of art?
Yeah, I mean, anything that I put out, I'm giving it 110%. I'm not looking at it as a throwaway or, a free download, anything like that, because somewhere in some part of the world, that's going to be somebody's first time hearing you. And, if somebody's been singing your praises for months or years, yo, Torae, you got to listen to Torae. And you finally like, yo, let me listen to this damn Torae. And you download something or you stream something and it's subpar, then that's it. That's my one shot. So I try to treat everything like this is somebody's first time hearing it. I'm definitely from the school of putting out retail projects. Some people are going to buy it, and shout out to them, and some people are not, and shout out to them as well, because at the end of the day, you just understand where we are with technology. And like I said earlier in the interview, nobody has to buy the music. People buy into you as an artist or you as a person, or they love you and they want to support you and see you win. Or some people just want to listen to the music and they don't give anything a shit about you, and that's the reality of it. So, for me, is I treat it as the people who are going to go out there and support it, go support it. And the people who are not, either they're not going to listen to it or they're going to stream it or whatever. Sometimes people have these preconceived notions about who you are, what the music is, so they listen to it or don't. And you can't please all the people. That's just ridiculous to try to, please 100% of the people 100% of the time. Is just not realistic. So, for me, I go in, I create a project, I give it my all. If it's something like a double barrel where we keeping it super street, if it's something like For the Record, which I was very mindful of the way I wanted that album to be crafted and sound and work with who I wanted to work with, because it was my debut album. I give all of these things the thoughts, Entitled kind of picks up right where For the Record album left off. So, I definitely always give these things a lot of thought before I go into creating them. And, I try to always give people the best me that I can give them.
Today I noticed you tweeted out a question on via your Facebook page. Of the 3 joints released from Entitled, which is your favorite? You said Saturday Night, Get Down, and Let Them Know. For you, what's the purpose of getting an answer to this question? And then secondly, do one of these records right now, does this for you do one of them represent the mission of the entire album, Entitled?
I think it's funny because that's a 2-part question, so I'm going to answer. I think it's funny because none of those records, and even after I tweeted it and I was looking at them, none of them give you the feel of what the album is. This album is definitely a story, top to bottom, and as just like For the Record was for me, or just like Double Barrel was for me, or even Heart Failure, I try to tell a story from top to bottom. Daily Conversation, like that first mixtape, that was just a collage of songs. Barrel Brothers with Sky was just us, going in there and picking dope beats and rhyming our face off. But when I do an album, whether people choose to dissect it or get it or not, but I do try to tell like a story and keep it cohesive. So those 3 songs are definitely 3 parts of the puzzle. Actually, excluding Saturday Night. Saturday Night is it was just so left of center as far as what I had done before and where it fits in on the album. I made it a bonus joint because I did that record with Preem like a year ago. You know what I'm saying? Like my plan was I was going to do a 12-inch. I was like, I'm not really in album mode. I don't know if I want to do an album right now. I wasn't inspired to make an album. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a 12-inch. And I want Pete Rock on it and I want Preem on it. Like I've never done the 12-inch before with those 2 guys. It's, like bucket list shit, check it off. And so I went in and I did Get Down first, which is another record that's over a year old. I did Get Down and then I got with Preem and then we did Saturday Night. So those 2 records were just kind of live on their own, be an A and B side or a double A side, since they both A-list guys. And for whatever reason, the cost of vinyl and timing and just all it didn't make sense. It ended up not making sense to drop those as a 12-inch. And so I just held on to them. I was like, at some point I'm going to make an album. Sky and I had just started talking about like his schedule was wide open, mine was wide open. So we like, yo, let's give the people the album they've been asking for years. And so we dove into Barrel Brothers. And so I just held on to the records. I was like, these are records that are timeless. Like, whether I put them out right now, if I put them out in a year or 2, they'll still impact the same way, because I don't feel like the music that I make is dated like that. You know what I'm saying? So if you would have heard Get Down when it first dropped, you know, people don't listen to it and be like, yo, this just sound like 2000, you know what I mean, 14, dog. No, it still feels, you know what I mean? It still feels like it's relevant. It still makes sense. It still hits hard. And that's very important when making music, is to try to make something that's not just stamped in a time, but, you know, something that can grow and live, you know, years from now. So that was that. So of those 3 tracks, none of them really overly represent what the album is, but they are parts of the story. Why I asked that is just to engage the audience, you know, just to get feedback, just to keep the conversation going. Like, my lifeline is the people, you know, making sure that I connect with the people, making sure that I'm trying to constantly give the people, because we have all the social media and everybody's watching and nobody's getting involved. And I'm like, yo, get involved. Like, don't be a spectator. Let's all play this game together. You know what I'm saying? Come on the field. So I was doing something today, and I was like, well, I put out 3 records. I was contemplating, you know, leaking another record from the album, and I was like, what would it be? And, you know, then we getting into the meat and potatoes of what the story on the album is, and so I was like, maybe I won't, you know. But I was like, well, there's 3 representations from the project out there right now, so I just wanted to get, you know, people talking and people caring, and if they didn't, you know, somebody might have missed something. I think it was actually spawned by that. Somebody, when I posted Let Them Know to SoundCloud, and somebody was like, yo, I didn't even know Torae had a new album coming out, you know what I'm saying? And you know, they had a link to the SoundCloud, and I was like, yo, I appreciate it. There's some other joints on there in case you missed it, you know, because everybody's living their life and doing what they're doing. Nobody's just sitting around waiting for me to drop music, you know. So I just got to make sure that people know it's out there. And you know, maybe you heard 1 and didn't know there were 3. You know, maybe you just heard Saturday Night and that was it, and didn't know about Get Down. Or maybe you sort of Let Them Know video and didn't know 2 things came before that. So it's just keeping the conversation open and keeping the dialogue there with me and the audience.
You obviously you keep the conversation open through your music and through social media, but you also have another thing you do, which is a radio show on SiriusXM. You have 2 careers, let's say, right? Hip hop, 4 careers. But let's talk about 2 of them. And in order to kind of stay quote unquote relevant, or to be, you know, to have longevity in the careers, you need to look at the sales, the ratings, the popularity, right? And your music fans aren't necessarily your SiriusXM fans, and vice versa. I mean, there might be some crossover, but that's not necessarily the case. How do you curtail your personalities or yourself in each of these fields so you stay relevant to get those ratings, but without losing actually who you are as a person?
I feel like being me is what got me here. And so, you know, when I say here, I mean doing radio. So for me to change it anyway, it wouldn't be true to why I even got the position. Like, I didn't come in perpetrating or trying to be somebody else. You know, I came from, shout out to my big homie DJ Eclipse. I came from Eclipse's show Rappers Out of Control, which was very underground, boom bap, independent. You know, the music that most people know me from. It was that. But when I went to the powers that be, I said, you know, I want to broaden my profile. I want to get to the listener that isn't a Torae fan, that has no idea I make music. And I want to draw them in, you know, but in doing that, I still got to be me in between those songs. You know, I think the music that's programmed is what keeps the listeners coming. You know, they want to hear Game, they want to hear Young Thug or Drake or whatever. That's what's going to bring them to Hip Hop Nation. Me in between is going to give them a glimpse of my personality. They're going to get a glimpse of who I am and how I feel about anything that's going on in the world, because I always try to keep the conversation very, very current, you know, as to what's happening. You know, if there's, you know, a verdict that comes in, or if somebody, you know, announces the wrong winner on a pageant, or anything that's going on, like, the conversation is always very, very fresh. And you're going to get a lot of my personality in that conversation. Or when I sit down with, you know, if it's somebody that I admire, that people think that I probably shouldn't listen to, or like a Jeezy, for example, you know, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to give you the conversation that I want to have with Jeezy, and you're going to be able to understand why I respect him as an artist, or listen to his music, even if you feel like that's not what I should be listening to. Because, you know, people definitely always like to put you in this box and dictate, you know, yo, you're Torae and you make records with Premier and Pete Rock, so why would you have Wiz Khalifa on your show? Because I can have a conversation with Wiz Khalifa, you know, and I think you should be more open-minded, you know, than, you know, you see me post that Wiz is going to be on the show, and there's 50, 60 comments tearing them down without even hearing what the conversation is, you know. So So for me, it was about bringing a new set of eyes and ears to what I was doing. You know, some people who know me from doing radio had no idea that I was an artist. Some people that know me from doing music didn't have Sirius, or didn't understand why I would want to do it until they started to listen. So, you know, again, like in that Venn diagram, there's going to be some people on this side, some people on this side. My goal is to get, you know, fill that middle up, you know, with people who know me from both, you know, and that goes into hosting. You know, I host a lot of live events, do a monthly showcase, Faces in the Crowd that I host. And, you know, I've covered red carpet for Double XL and, you know, BT and things of that nature. And for me, it's just, I'm so engulfed in the culture. Like, I love it so much. I just want to be a constant contributor, you know, whether I'm an MC, whether I'm A&R in the project and helping you get your record out, whether I'm on SiriusXM, you know, talking to some of your favorite artists or least favorite artists, or, and as I'm moving into acting and things of that nature, I just want to continue to contribute and give back to the culture. You know, I'm the modern Renaissance man for real these days, but it's all because I gotta pay it forward. You know, I gotta just be so given to the culture that's given so much to me. It's like any way I could fit in to be a contributor, I'm gonna do it.
There's one thing I really like about your Facebook page is your cover photo, which is a tribute to Sean Price, and you've worked with him, and he passed away on August 8th of 2015. As an artist and as a person, what did he mean to you when you were working with him, or as a friend? And how did he influence your artwork?
That's so crazy, man. Like, I just get, you know, visibly, I just get, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was the big homie for as dope as an MC and artist he was. That was big bro, you know, so that one hurt me hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like right up there with my grandma's past. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just that real. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, as a fan of hip-hop music, like, you just love Boot Camp Clee. You know what I'm saying? Like, Buckshot used to spend time in Coney Island, so I would actually see him. You know, people from around my way grew up with him, so it's just, like, crazy, like, to see who got the props and then come outside and see Buckshot, you know, chilling on the corners, like, yo, you was just on TV. Like, that is so crazy to me. So 2 years later, you know, do a record on Duck Down in 2009 and into become friends and family with some of the guys on the label was just crazy. But Sean was the first one. Sean took me under his wing. Sean took me to the studio. Sean put me on records. Sean made me feel like, he called them pedestrians. You know what I'm saying? He made me feel like I wasn't a pedestrian. He's like, yo, you on. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, I can't wait till I get on. And he's like, yo, you already on. He was like, yo, you spit that shit. Like, you know what I mean? You spit bodies. And he gave me so much in the conversation as far as encouragement and little shit that he would do, you know, like invite me over to his crib, you know what I'm saying, for the fish fry. And, you know, we found out his birthday was the day before mine, and his daughter Sean Price was born on my birthday. And just like, you know, we share the same birthday, March 18th, just like little shit like that, having real talks about life, not just about music, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a big loss for the hip hop community. It definitely was a big loss for me, from somebody who I just respected and looked up to so much. And again, man, like those little pats on the back and those little bits of acceptance is what keeps you going sometimes when you want to just be like, yo, it's a wrap. Like, I don't want to do this. I can't deal. Having somebody like Sean Price respect my MC, and you know, so much that he called me to get, yo, I gotta have you on this joint. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when we did Duck Down from Kimbo, and then we did By the Way from Mike Tyson, and you know, anytime I called him, you know, he was on Marco and I's album, as well as, you know, Barrel Brothers with Sky and I. So, you know, we had so many records. He put me on the first Babu joint I had ever rhymed on. It was crazy because Sean is so nuts that we ended up losing the session, and I ended up not being on the song. But you know, the fact that he invited me to the studio and he was like, yo, I'm doing this shit with Babu. You fuck with Babu? That's my man, blah blah blah. He's like, yo, write a verse. He gonna put you on the joint. And I was like, yo, this is, you know, it was just so crazy. I remember going home and getting on the subway, you know what I'm saying, and just probably was glowing, you know what I'm saying, like, yo, I just did a record with Sean Price that's going to be on Babu's album. Like, it was so crazy to me. And I was heartbroken once the session got lost. But we ended up making more records. And, you know, I formed a relationship with Babs and all of that. But, yeah, man, losing Sean Price was just, it's still unreal. You love him, love his family, his wife, his kids, extended Duck Down fam as well. Just it's definitely still hurts. It definitely still stings like the day I found out.
Torae, new album entitled, drops January 15th, 2016. Torae, it's been an honor to talk to you on The Library with Tim Einenkel on rapstation.com.
The pleasure is definitely all mine, Tim. Thank you. I apologize for the various reschedulings and, even showing up late today. I pride myself on being on time. But it's the holidays. I was definitely in chill mode, and I had my son with me. It was a bunch of Christmas toys I had to lug into the city and a bunch of bags. And so I drove, and normally I don't drive into the city. People look at me like, why are you on the train? I was like, because driving is retarded into the city in the middle of the day. So anyway, long story short, I was a bit tardy. I apologize again, but hopefully it was worth the wait.
And all that. Hold up. Cracked the door and to my surprise, delivery chick was a dime. When I ordered breast and thighs, I was thinking with fries. Opened it wide, come inside. Let me get you this bread. It's in the wallet in the room on my bed. Walked to the counter, she put the bag of food on the edge. Walked in my room, looking back at her, shaking my head. Thinking, damn, wishing she was on the menu instead. Then the room door shut, like I heard what you said. She was with it, I was with it, so Wolf came to fit it. Like I was trying to deliver to you for a minute. I get it, now you gon' get it. She leaned back, jumped in the sack, undid my zipper, laid me down on my back. About an hour into it, somebody calling her Jack. Non-stop, back to back, like you should get that. She said it's just ping my ex, the black belt. Dude is obsessed, he probably followed me up to your address.
Wait, what you mean followed you to my address? Like a black belt, like karate? Like he nice with that shit? Nah, man, you gotta get the fuck out. Hold up.
Kicked in the door, waving the nunchucks. Both staffing, laughing, do his type nuts. Try to tell homie, I ain't know your wife was a smut. No need to bust in my crib on wrecking my stuff. Seen his lips move, but he never uttered a word. About 8 seconds later, this is all that I heard. You Torae, you must pay. Kitty cat, you slay. Now under the ground where you must lay. Got in the stance, 2 ninja stars in his hands. Threw them both in my directions, blocked them both with a plan. Kept coming, I start dumbing. Never been a punk, but do the karate master. Hit him right in his nuts. Scream out, lean forward, I uppercutted his jaw. Foot swept him to the floor and threw him right out the door. Peep shorty in my sight, she asked if I might. I said it's to be expected, it's Saturday night. Up from the ground up, son, you get the picture. Up from the ground up, son.
A veteran, I flow like I'm young, what?
Up from the ground up, son, you get the picture. Up from the ground up, son.
A veteran, I flow like I'm young, what?
Get ultimate protection and durability for your painting project at Menards. Get a paint that combines durability and gorgeous color. Dutch Boy's DuraClean Interior Paint and Primer in 1 offers Stay Clean technology, making your home stay beautiful and clean longer. And with Dutch Boy's easy opening, smooth pouring container, transforming your home has never been easier. Save big money on Dutch Boy paints and head into Menards to get your paint project started today.
Save big money at Menards.
Meet the next generation of podcast stars with SiriusXM's Listen Next program, presented by State Farm. As part of their mission to help voices be heard, State Farm teamed up with SiriusXM to uplift diverse and emerging creators. Tune in to Stars and Stars with Issa, as host Issa Nakazawa dives into birth charts of her celeb guests. This is just the start of a new wave of podcasting. Visit statefarm.com to find out how we can help prepare for your future. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.